Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Danielle. I like mystery, thriller, romance for the genres, and this is my June and July wrap up, all mixed together. There is no order, I just put them all together, and let's go ahead. The Winemaker's Wife by Kristen Harmel. I read The Book of Lost Names by this author, and now I'm reading this one. You are following two different people from two different timelines, 1940 and 2019. And as you're reading this, their perspectives kind of interline and kind of interweave. I rated this one, I think, 4 out of 5 stars. The Last Word by Taylor Adams. You are following Emma Carpenter, who is living in isolation, and the only people that she has contact with is her neighbor Deke and then the homeowner Jules. One day she reads a book. I think she bought it on Amazon for like 99 cents or something, and she writes a review about it, and she didn't care for the book. And so then the author of the book like starts commenting on her review, and it just goes from there. It's a wild ride, but it didn't always keep me intrigued. So I'm only gonna rate it 3 out of 5 stars. The Wife Stalker by Liv Constantine. You are following Leo and Piper. They are together, and then Joanna is the ex-wife of Leo, and she doesn't really care for Piper, so she starts digging in to see if she can find any information at all or anything, to kind of get Piper away from her kids. But I rated this one 3 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was Blindsided by Karen Slaughter. You are following Sarah and her ex-husband Jeff as they're investigating these deaths that keep happening in this small town of Georgia. And Sarah does not really want to work with her ex-husband Jeff. I'm not for sure. I don't remember exactly why they divorced or whatever, but so you're following them as they're investigating everything, and the ending was wow. But the whole book itself did not really keep me intrigued. It was a me problem, not the book problem. I'm sure if I reread it in a different time of my life, I'm sure I would enjoy it. There was just too much stuff going around in my personal life that was very similar to things that happened in this book. So I'm gonna rate it 3 out of 5 stars. And again, I'm pretty sure it was a me problem, not a book problem. So if you go ahead and read this, I'm pretty sure you'll rate it higher than the 3, but it is what it is. This was also my first Karen Slaughter book. I want to pick up more, but the graphics right now, I can't handle. So, yeah, make sure you look for trigger warnings, any of that stuff. Don't pick it up if you're very, cannot handle triggers of certain things. Just look up the trigger warnings. I read The Roughest Draft by Emily Wyberly, I believe is how you pronounce it. You are following Katrina and Nathan. They met at a writing workshop, and they began as co-writers their books, and they kind of have like a falling out, but there's one last book on the contract that they have to finish, and it just kind of answers some questions that they both wanted to know. I don't want to give away too much information, but you kind of learn what happened and what happens from there. I rate it 4 out of 5 stars, just because it was an overall, I thought it was a great read. It just kind of, there was a few parts that I wish the author would have done differently, but it was good. The Only Survivors by Megan Miranda. You were following this group of friends who had like this accident 10 years ago, and they meet up for this cabin, like this weekend getaway thing, and they end up finding out who killed the people. And it was a slow burn, I want to say is what it's called, because the first half of the book like pretty much put me to sleep, and then the second half was like, okay, now I need to focus on figuring out what the heck is happening. And it was just like almost too slow for my liking. I'm gonna rate it 2 out of 5 stars. The On the Island by Tracy Garvis Graves. You are following this teacher-student age gap romance that basically ends up happening. She is supposed to be tutoring him on this like certain island. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but then their plane crashes and they end up being stuck on this island for not only months but years, and he turns 18 and then the relationship begins or whatever. He is dying of cancer. This was actually a reread for me, so I'm gonna rate it 4 out of 5 stars again. I read One Italian Summer by Rebecca Zerlia, I believe is how you pronounce her name. You are following this lady who very early into the book has cancer, and she eventually passes away, and the woman tells her husband that she is going to go to Italy. So she goes to Italy to kind of express herself, find herself, because her mom was like her best friend and they were like inseparable and whatnot. And then, so as she's in Italy, happens to see her mom on this beach, and it takes her off guard, and she doesn't want to say anything because she doesn't want people to think like she's making it up or just is seeing things that aren't there. I don't want to give away too many details, but I ended up rating the book 3 out of 5. Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmis, I believe is how you pronounce it. You are following this lady named Elizabeth, and she is faced with some challenges as being a female chemist. And in the process, something happens, and she's judged even more for being a woman. Personally, this book was a little too much. In this book, it demonstrates and it tries to bring out equality between men and women. That's personally something that I don't like to talk about, and I didn't realize that's what this book was about. I guess I just kind of picked it up based on the cover. So I'm gonna have to rate it 1 star. It just wasn't for me. I read Practice Makes Perfect by Sarah Adams. This is the second one in When in Rome series. I recommend reading When in Rome first and then reading this one, just because then you know like all the characters, because they take characters from When in Rome into this one. You are following Annie, which is When in Rome's male character's sister, and she is looking for someone for her match, and she keeps going on these dates, and someone from When in Rome shows up and eventually decides to work on their friendship and go from there. I am rating this one 4 out of 5 stars. I do not want to give out too many details, but it was cute and heartwarming and just an overall good read. I've read Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. You are following Percy and Sam as they are reconnecting, and it's flashbacking to back when they were kids to now they are adults. Sam calls Percy and lets her know that his mom has passed away, and he's asking her to come to his mom's funeral, which she indeed does go to the funeral for him. That's within like the first chapter. I'm gonna go ahead and rate this 4 out of 5 stars. I finished reading Meet Me at the Lake by Carly Fortune. You are following Willow and Fern. They've known each other from years ago, and an event happens that brings them back together. And I'm reading Meet Me at the Lake 3 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read was What Lies in the Woods by Kate Marshall. I'll link it up here. You're following this female character who has lost this friend who's like passed away, and they're trying to figure out who killed her. She ends up meeting this gentleman named Ethan, and Ethan wants to interview you for his podcast, and she is torn whether to let him interview her or not for the podcast. And she is given some information from her friends about this Ethan character. I ended up reading the book 3 out of 5 stars. I read The Spanish Love Deception by Elena Armas, I believe is how you pronounce it. You are following Catalina and Aaron. They are co-workers, and Catalina needs this date for this wedding, and she doesn't have anybody in mind, and she starts slooping to different levels to try to find someone that she doesn't even know. And Aaron keeps telling her, just take me to the wedding, you know me, it'll be fine, da da da. And it takes off. Really slow start to the story, but overall, like, the chemistry between the two characters and just overall was fantastic. I ended up rating The Spanish Love Deception 4 out of 5 stars only because it started out slow. The Drowning Woman by Robin Harding. You are following this lady who basically shows that she was drowning in front of this other female character. They become acquaintances, I guess. They weren't really friends. I mean, I don't know. But I ended up rating it 4 out of 5 stars. I really did enjoy the thriller aspect of everything, and it kind of kept you on your toes. I read Twisted Love by Anna Hong. I believe is how you pronounce her last name, not 100% sure. You were following Ava, Alex, and Josh. Josh is Ava's older brother, and Alex and Josh are best friends, and it's a taboo romance between Ava and Alex. You need to look for trigger warnings for PTSD. I personally struggle with PTSD, and the part with PTSD really was hard for me to read. I had to take a few breaks in between reading this because it was a difficult read for me. But I'm going to go ahead and rate it 2 out of 5 stars. Perfect Match by Jodi Picoult. You are following this female prosecutor who finds out her 5-year-old son is being sexually assaulted. How far would you go? I rated it 4 out of 5 stars. I guess it could have been just a little bit shorter. And then I read 2 more books, which would be Vanishing Acts by Jodi Picoult, which was a DNF for me, and then Small Great Things by Jodi Picoult, which also was a DNF for me. I read The Bodyguard by Catherine Zenner. It was a brand new author to me. You are following Hannah and Jack. Hannah ends up being Jack's bodyguard from a stalking ex-girlfriend. It's just a cute romance between the two. 4 out of 5 stars. And the last book that I've read was Maggie Moves On by Lucy Score. This was gifted to me from my friend Jordan. Maggie is house flipping, and she ends up meeting this landscaper named Silas. And Silas kind of brings out a different side of Maggie and lets her, they kind of learn on each other basically. Maggie brings out a good side in Silas, and Silas brings out a good side in Maggie. It was a cute overall story. 4 out of 5 stars. That is a wrap for all the books that I read in June and all the books that I read in July. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.